Story of 8,000 Sacks, The Origins of Grand Secretariat Archives. It is 2008. A student named Pellet is applying to access the Institute of History and Philology's Grand Secretariat Archives.
What is this? Just let me open it.
The time machine takes Pellet on a historical trip about 8,000 sacks. In the last years of the Qing dynasty, the Grand Secretariat suggested the establishment of a library using the books in the Grand Secretariat storage, and that the rest of these books and archives should be burned because they are useless.
Hurry up! Come here and put out the fire!
Thanks to Mr. Law, a real disaster was prevented.
In the early years of the Republic, these archives and documents were piled up next to the Meridian Gate. Because there was no one guarding them, many people came and looked through them, looking for valuable ones.
What are they looking for? It seems interesting. It is rosters of successful examination candidates and official documents from the Qing dynasty.
I found it! I found a rare Song Dynasty edition book! Ha ha!
These 8,000 sacks of documents were handed over to the Museum of History in the early Republican era. It is 1921, the 10th year of the Republic.
We are short of funds. What should we do about that? If we can sell this old paper, then we will have some income. Good idea. Let's just do it.
Because of a shortage of money, the Museum of History decided to sell some of the more damaged documents paper-making store for recycling.
He is Mr. Luo Chenyu, who saved the documents from the fire. What a coincidence that he is here. Let's see what he is doing now.
Aren't they official reports from Hongjiangzhou and the list of tribute gifts from the Korean king? Why are they here?
After investigating, he found out that these documents came from the paper-making store.
Boss, just sell these archives and documents to me, okay? If you pay $12,000, you can have them. Okay.
Luo Zhenyu rearranged these archives and documents. Then he published them as the first edition of source books. But there were too many archives and documents. The cost was huge, and it was impossible for one man to rearrange and preserve them alone. Many people wanted to buy these documents from him, but Luo Zhenyu rejected them without hesitation. Several years later, Luo Zhenyu could not afford to keep them anymore, so he sold the archives and documents to a book collector, Li Xiangduo, in Tianjin. Li Xiangduo came from an educated family and was also a famous book and document collector.
I have bought these 8,000 bags. Take them back to my house immediately. Let me see what kind of valuable things I can find in them. Rare books of the Song Dynasty. I can't find any Song editions. Just move them all to the storage. Yes, my lord.
Several years later, Li Xiangduo revealed his willingness to sell the documents. Under the leadership of Chen Yingke, the Institute of History and Philology soon decided to purchase them from Li Xiangduo. In the process of making this purchase, nationalist sentiment played an important role. South Manchuria Railways Company and Harvard Yenjing Institute had substantial funds, while the Institute of History and Philology had a limited budget. Chen Yingke wrote to Fu Sinian saying,
I know the South Manchuria Railways Company and Harvard Yenjing Institute have ample funds. It is unacceptable to let foreigners acquire these archives and preserve them. It will be humiliating for our whole nation. It's our duty to preserve them.
Fu Sinian agreed with him and said, if these archives are bought and kept by foreigners, it will be a disgrace to our nation. We should buy them immediately.
The first step for historical research is to collect materials, and first-hand resources are the most important.
Studying these materials and resources directly will represent progress. The 8,000 sacks are full of original records from Ming Qing dynasties. They are precious first-hand materials and resources for researching the history of this era. We must buy them.
Thus, after discussing, Fu Sinian, Chen Yingke, and Hu Shi decided to buy the archives and documents from the book collector Li Xiangduo.
Oh, I understand.
These archives and documents were eventually bought by the Institute of History and Philology in 1929. Later, because of the Sino-Japan War and the Civil War, they were transferred from place to place. In 1948, they were finally shipped to Taiwan. They are now stored in Nangang, Taipei City, in a specialized storage space and managed by experts, no longer drifting from place to place.
So, the materials before me are the official documents of the Grand Secretariat in the 8,000 stacks. They were only preserved after a lot of effort. Such valuable materials must be preserved, and we must treasure them.